Chloe Kelly and welcome to GAA Sunrise. This is a show where we have a look at the morning papers and review the latest headlines from the GAA world. Delighted to announce Roscommon heartthrob Shane Curran as my anchorman for the 6-episode series as we reach the business end of the Football and Hurling Championship. Shane, of course, is well averse to the geometry of the GAA world. Shane, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Chloe. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's a lovely morning here in the Hudson Bay Hotel.
Delighted to have you. First off, a quick mention to the Hudson Bay Hotel. We would like to thank them very much for their remarkable venue and hospitality. Of course, you can check them out at hudsonbayhotel.com. Shane, I suppose you're very near to the Hudson Bay Hotel, so I'm sure you visit the hotel a lot. It's a remarkable venue.
Yeah, to be fair, it is, and it's probably one of the reasons I'm as fit as I am at the moment. I do use the spa and everything, and the pool, and also even the lake now and again. And it's remarkable that I haven't drowned it over the last number of years. But yeah, it's a superb venue, and the hospitality is always brilliant here.
Of course. Well, we're really looking forward to today's show. So, as I said before, this is one episode of a 6-episode series where we're going to have a look at the morning papers and have a look at the GAA headlines from our national press. Shane, great action at the weekend between Dublin and Monaghan and Tyrone and Armagh. How did you think that the games went? Were you surprised, I suppose, that there was a big gap in the scoreline?
Well, I think great action if you're from Dublin and great action if you're from Tyrone, but I think for Armagh and Monaghan it's back to the drawing board. You know, when you look at the Tyrone Armagh game, the disparity in quality was really obvious. I think you look at the headlines, you know, you got to stroll with it, you got to roll with it. Tyrone were just rampant all over the place, and they've probably matured. I think this year as a side, they're putting up big scores in Ulster where you normally traditionally find close games. They pulverised Donegal around the championship and yesterday in Croke Park. I mean, just Minnigan boys really, and the Armagh journey is probably in its infancy. Tyrone are a very skilled side, they're a very mature side, and to be fair, you have to say that they were outstanding yesterday right from the get-go, and there was an inevitability for the scoreline right from the get-go. I think after about 15 minutes the game was over.
Well, of course, 3-17, you know, to Armagh's 8 points is an outstanding scoreline. I suppose a lot of the papers this morning are looking on Tyrone and Armagh's clash from 3 years ago, and I suppose hyping up a bit that Tyrone wanted a bit of revenge, you know, from 3 years ago. If you had to pick one headline so far, what one would you pick? Well,
you know, I'm looking at the Independent there, and our good friend Joe Brolly, I suppose, really, you know, he probably sums it up, to be fair. I think themselves in Dublin are on probably the same sort of curve. Red Hands refined the blanket defence, and you know, I think Tyrone over the last decade or so have had a very unfair probably characterisation of their abilities. They were really the first team to hunt in packs, chase in packs, tackle in packs, and maybe put up that kind of blanket defence tactic. They refined that over the years. They've had a number of top class players, obviously Peter Canavan, Muggsy, Stephen O'Neill. All these guys were top players. And now they've got Peter Hart, Sean Cavan obviously going strong. But they have refined the way they play, and they play far more expansive football now. And in the modern game, I think like any actual team game, there is an onus on a good, strong defensive strategy. But to win things, you got to align that with good, competent attacking play. And Tyrone seem to have found that mixture and that ability to transition from defence to attack very, very quickly. They've got very athletic players right across the middle third, and as I said, they're putting up huge scores, and then really yesterday they were rampant right from the get-go, and Armagh had no answers.
But I suppose one thing that Tyrone were criticised for before is, you know, they're an all-out defensive team, and as you said there, you know, they're kind of after restructuring their play, you know, really focusing on the attacking side of things as well. 3-17 is a massive scoreline, you know, for any team. So, you know, having gotten the defensive side of things, you know, fairly spot on in previous years, and now, you know, they're improving their attacking side of things. Do you think that would be enough to go, you know, a few steps further?
Well, I think that narrative was very unfair in Tyrone in the first instance. I mean, to me, they were the team of the naughties. I know Kerry may have won more All-Irelands, but Tyrone really were the side that that jumped out of the box in terms of traditional football powers. They came and they won 3 All-Irelands in the noughties, or close to it, and I know they were led by players of a different calibre than they have today, but notwithstanding that, they seem to have an umbrella over them of negativity, which obviously was created by Pat Spillane and other people that it suited. But Tyrone to me are really a terrific football side. They have been now for almost for the whole of Mickey Hart's tenure there as manager. They never know when to give up, and he's transitioned. This is really a new side with new players coming in, but they're playing a far more expansive game. And I think looking forward, if a team is to take on the likes of Dublin, probably the best equipped side to do so is Tyrone, because they have that mixture of really good defending in the narrow zones, the scoring zones, and then they can transition the ball very quickly out into the open third and into the full forward line and get support players up with them to score. And that really is something that a lot of teams have struggled to do against Dublin. If we look at this year, you know, the likes of the Carlows, maybe Westmeads at some instance last year, Mayo to a certain extent are on probably the same playing field. You can certainly set up teams to be competitive, but can you set up a team that's competitive, defend correctly, attack correctly, and know tactically then how to actually go for the throat when they have a chance? And Tyrone are probably one of 2 or 3 that can do that against the Dublin team that's par excellence.
Well, of course, you spoke about top players from Tyrone there a few moments ago, and one player, of course, that really stands out is Peter Hart, man of the match yesterday, and at the Sun here, and GA writer Paul Keane has a headline, "Not for the faint-hearted," and that's directly, aimed at Peter Hart, of course, man of the match and nephew of the boss, Mickey.
Yeah, and he's a tremendous player. He's one of the top handful of players around the country. And I think it's his attitude really more than anything else that makes him the player he is. I mean, any young player looking out at Peter Hart, in some ways he's probably not the most skillful. He doesn't stand out as a real thoroughbred in many ways, but his application to the game is just tremendous. And the way he attacks the match, the way he looks at the game, the way he reads the game, his athleticism is quite unique. He's like us, I think, James McCaffrey in many ways, how he plays. But it's kind of that Tyrone team is very similar in many instances. They've got 3 or 4 type Peter Hart players who are so athletic through that. Once they win the ball, once they turn the ball over, they move in packs, they move in 3s and 4s, and it makes it very difficult for teams to withstand that type of skill and that type of speed. Particularly when players that are so adaptable. Once the ball is changed over, they know exactly what their jobs are. It's like they're on a pendulum. We defend, we go back very quickly, and then when we attack, the pendulum just goes down rapidly, and they move with it, and it's right through the zones, and I think that's probably one of the reasons that they're putting up such big scores. They are extremely athletic. They're extremely well conditioned. In actual fact, if you just look at his legs there, I think it's on the Paul Keane piece on the Sunday, the Sun. You look at his legs. These guys are like Mo Farah, really. They can run and run. And again, allied to that, their football skill is top class.